My name is Rachel Calloway. I am 41 years old, and on the morning I walked into a law office on the fourth floor of a building on Peachtree Street in Atlanta, Georgia, I was not there to file a claim. I was not there to contest a document. I was not there because anyone had invited me or warned me or prepared me for what I was about to see. I was there because my father had made one small mistake. He had used my old address on the paperwork, the address I had lived at before Marcus died, the address I had not lived at for 3 years, and the forwarding service I had set up at the post office in 2023, the one I had forgotten to cancel, had quietly redirected a single envelope to my new house on a Wednesday morning in February. That envelope changed everything. Drop a comment and tell me, has someone in your own family ever used your grief against you? Subscribe if you believe that the truth, no matter how long it takes, finds its way to the surface. I need to take you back to the beginning, not to the law office, not to the envelope. To a Saturday afternoon in September of 2021, when my husband, Marcus, died in a hospital room in Atlanta at 44 years old, with my hand in his and his mother's rosary on the bedside table and a cardiac monitor printing its last slow line of ink onto white paper. Marcus Calloway had been an electrical engineer. He had grown up in Decatur, the youngest of 3, the one his mother called her quiet storm, because he never made noise until something needed fixing, and then he fixed it completely. We had met in 2009 at a rooftop party in Midtown that neither of us had wanted to attend. He had been standing near the door with a glass of water, the only person at the party not holding something alcoholic, and I had stood next to him and said, "You look like you're calculating the fastest exit route." He had said, "4th floor? Stairs are faster than the elevator. I already checked." We were married in June of 2011 at a small ceremony in Piedmont Park. His mother, Eleanor, wore a yellow dress. My father, George Whitfield, wore a suit he had borrowed from his brother because he said the occasion deserved something borrowed. He had laughed at his own joke. I had laughed too. That was the version of my father I had grown up believing in. The one who made jokes at weddings. The one who drove 4 hours from Savannah to Atlanta every Thanksgiving without being asked. The one who had taught me to ride a bike in the church parking lot on a Sunday morning in 1992 and had run alongside me for half a mile before I realized he had let go. I did not know yet what he was capable of when money was involved. Marcus was diagnosed with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy in March of 2019. The cardiologist, a precise quiet man named Dr. Anand Suresh, explained it to us in an office with a model of a heart on his desk and a view of the hospital parking garage through the window. He explained that the heart muscle was thickened, that it was obstructing blood flow, that it was manageable, with medication, with monitoring, with lifestyle adjustment, that it was not a death sentence. It was not a death sentence. Until it was. Marcus had a cardiac event on a Thursday evening in September of 2021. He was at his desk in our home office, reviewing drawings for a commercial project in Buckhead. I was in the kitchen making dinner. I heard him fall. That sound, the sound of a person falling when they are alone in a room, is a sound I will never be able to describe accurately because my brain has protected me from the full memory of it. I know I ran. I know I called 911. I know the dispatcher's name was Keisha because she told me her name and told me to stay on the line, and I have never forgotten it. Marcus was pronounced at Atlanta Medical Center at 9:47 p.m. He was 44 years old. We had been married for 10 years and 3 months. We did not have children. We had 2 cats named after jazz musicians and a house in Decatur that still smelled like the cedar shelving Marcus had installed in the guest room the summer before he died. The life insurance policy had been taken out in 2013, a 20-year term policy through Meridian Life, $800,000 benefit, myself listed as sole primary beneficiary. Marcus had chosen that number deliberately. He had sat at our kitchen table with the policy documents and a yellow legal pad and worked through what it would cost me to keep the house, pay the remaining mortgage, maintain the practice I had been building for 4 years, and not have to make any decisions from a place of desperation for at least 5 years. He had said, "I want you to have time, Rachel. If anything happens, I want you to have time to think." I had told him nothing was going to happen. He had said, "I know, but just in case." He was like that. Precise, prepared, quiet until something needed fixing. He died on a Thursday. The policy claim paperwork arrived from Meridian Life on the following Monday. The packet was thick, cream-colored, with a cover letter explaining the process and a checklist of required documents. Death certificate, policy number, beneficiary identification, claim form signed and notarized. I set the packet on the kitchen table. I looked at it for 3 days without opening it. Eleanor, Marcus's mother, came to stay with me for 2 weeks after the funeral. She was the one who finally sat down across from me at the kitchen table and said, "Baby, we have to open it. Marcus would want it done right." We opened it together. I filled out the claim form at the kitchen table with Eleanor beside me. I signed it. I had it notarized at the UPS store 2 blocks from the house. I mailed it on a Friday morning with a tracking number. Meridian Life confirmed receipt. They said the review process typically took 60 to 90 days. 90 days passed, then 120. I called the claims line 3 times. Each time I was told the claim was under review. Each time I was told I would receive a letter when a determination had been made. Each time the representative was polite and said nothing of substance. At 150 days, I retained an attorney. His name was William Okafor, a policyholder rights attorney out of Atlanta with an office on West Peachtree Street. William was 53 years old, and he had been fighting insurance companies since 1999, and he had the particular calm of a man who had heard every delay tactic in the industry and was no longer surprised by any of them. He submitted a formal demand letter. Meridian Life responded within 10 days. The response said that the claim had been contested, that a secondary claimant had filed a competing beneficiary designation, that the matter required further review before any disbursement could be made. William read me the letter over the phone. I sat on the kitchen floor with my back against the cabinet under the sink, the way I had been sitting on floors since Marcus died, because sitting on the floor was the only place that felt low enough. "William," I said, "what does a competing beneficiary designation mean?" He said, "It means someone else has filed a claim on the same policy, someone who says they are entitled to the benefit." I said, "That's not possible. I am the sole primary beneficiary. Marcus named me in 2013. William said, "I know. That's what the original policy says." He paused. But Meridian received a change of beneficiary form in August of 2021, 1 month before Marcus died. The kitchen was very quiet. I could hear one of the cats walking across the hardwood floor in the hallway. I could hear the refrigerator hum. "What does the form say?" I said. "It lists a new primary beneficiary," William said. "George Thomas Whitfield, your father." I want to pause here because I need you to understand something before I continue. My father had been in our lives consistently since Marcus and I married. He had come to Atlanta 4 times a year. He had sat at our kitchen table. He had eaten Eleanor's sweet potato pie at Thanksgiving. He had shaken Marcus's hand at every arrival and every departure with the particular handshake of a man who respected another man's house. Marcus had trusted him. I know this because Marcus trusted very few people, and he had told me once early in our marriage that my father was one of the good ones. That sentence had meant something to me for 10 years. I sat on that kitchen floor and I turned that sentence over and over until it stopped sounding like anything at all. The change of beneficiary form, as William explained it to me over the next several days, had been submitted to Meridian Life by mail on August 19th, 2021. 26 days before Marcus died. The form listed Marcus as the policyholder. It listed George Thomas Whitfield of Savannah, Georgia, as the new primary beneficiary, replacing Rachel Ann Calloway. It listed a reason code of personal financial planning update. It was signed in the signature block for the policyholder with Marcus Calloway's name. Marcus Calloway had been in a cardiac monitoring program at that point. He had a standing appointment every 6 weeks with Dr. Suresh. He had been working from home on the Buckhead project. He had been, as far as I had known, managing. He had not mentioned changing his life insurance beneficiary. Not once. Not in conversation, not in passing, not in the careful, deliberate way he mentioned everything that mattered, because he had not changed it. I knew this the way I knew the sound of his voice, the way I knew the exit he would calculate from any room he walked into, the way I knew that when something needed fixing, he fixed it completely and told me about it afterward because he believed in showing work. He had not told me about it because he had not done it. William requested a copy of the original form from Meridian Life under the policyholder rights statutes. It arrived by secure email on a Monday morning. I opened it at my desk. I looked at the signature for a long time. Marcus had an engineer's handwriting. Precise, slightly left-leaning. The capital M in Marcus had a specific hook at the top of the first peak, a small stylistic habit he had developed in college that showed up in every document he had ever signed in my presence. His signature on our mortgage, his signature on the policy itself in 2013, his signature on the closing documents for the Decatur house in 2015. The signature on the change of beneficiary form did not have the hook. It had everything else: the general shape, the slope, the spacing. Someone had studied his signature carefully. Someone had practiced, but they had missed the hook on the M. I printed the form. I printed 3 examples of Marcus's verified signature from documents I had in my files. I laid them side by side on the kitchen table, and I stood over them with a magnifying glass for 20 minutes. Then I called William. I said, "William, the signature is forged." He said, "I need you to send me what you're looking at." I photographed each document. I sent them. He called me back in 40 minutes. He said, "Rachel, I see what you're seeing, but I need more than our eyes. I need a forensic document examiner." The forensic document examiner was a woman named Dr. Patricia Elms. She had a Ph.D. in questioned document examination from the University of New Haven. She had testified in 63 cases. She charged $4,500 for a full examination and written report. I paid it from my savings account, the one I had been living on for a year and a half while the claim sat in review. Dr. Elms delivered her report in 3 weeks. It was 14 pages. The conclusion was in the second paragraph of the executive summary. The questioned signature on the Meridian Life Change of Beneficiary form, dated August 19, 2021, is not consistent with the known signatures of Marcus Elliott Calloway. Ink pressure analysis, stroke direction, and specific letterform characteristics indicate the questioned signature was produced by a different hand than the known exemplars. This examiner concludes with a high degree of professional certainty that the questioned signature is not genuine. I read that paragraph 4 times. Then I put the report down on the kitchen table. Then I went into the backyard and I sat on the back step and I looked at the cedar tree that Marcus had planted in 2017 because he had read that cedar trees lived for hundreds of years, and he had said he wanted to plant something that would outlast both of us. I stayed there for a long time. Then I came inside. I called William. I said, "What do we do now?" He said, "Now we find out who mailed the form." The envelope used to mail the change of beneficiary form to Meridian Life in August of 2021 had been postmarked in Savannah, Georgia. My father lived in Savannah, Georgia. William subpoenaed the mailing records. Meridian Life had retained the original envelope per their document preservation policy. The postmark was from a USPS location on Bull Street in Savannah. The envelope had been mailed with a first-class stamp and had no return address. My father's handwriting was on file with Meridian Life. He had correspondence with them dating back to 2019, when he had inquired, as I would later learn, about the terms of Marcus's policy. He had called the customer service line in April of 2019 and again in January of 2021. The call records, obtained through discovery, listed the inquiries as general policy questions. The representative notes from the January 2021 call included one line that William read to me over the phone in a steady voice. Caller asked about beneficiary change process and timeline for processing. January of 2021. 8 months before Marcus died, 7 months before the forged form was mailed. I sat very still when William read me that line. I thought about my father at our kitchen table. I thought about his borrowed suit at our wedding. I thought about him running alongside my bike in the church parking lot until he let go. I thought about the fact that Marcus had trusted him, and I could not reconcile those two things. I tried for a long time. I finally stopped trying. The envelope arrived at my house on a Wednesday morning in February of 2026. I was making coffee. The mail slot in my front door pushed it through at 10:14 in the morning, one piece of standard mail forwarded from my old Decatur address. The return address on the envelope was Aldridge and Fenn, attorneys at law, Atlanta, Georgia. 4th floor, Peachtree Street. I did not know the firm. I opened the envelope at the kitchen counter while the coffee brewed. Inside was a single-page letter. It was addressed to my old address. It was dated January 28, 2026. It was a notice of scheduled mediation. It referenced a civil case number I did not recognize. It referenced a disputed insurance disbursement. It referenced, in the third paragraph, the parties to the mediation. One party was Meridian Life Insurance Company. One party was George Thomas Whitfield, represented by Aldridge and Fenn. The third party listed was Rachel Ann Calloway, represented by counsel to be confirmed. My father's attorneys had scheduled a mediation in a case that involved my name. They had sent the notice to my old address. And the forwarding service I had set up in 2023 and forgotten to cancel had sent it to my new house on a Wednesday morning while I was making coffee. I read the letter twice. Then I called William. He said, "Rachel, are you somewhere you can sit down?" I said, "Tell me." He said, "Meridian Life has been holding the funds in escrow pending the contested claim. Your father's attorneys have been in communication with them for the past 8 months. They scheduled a mediation for March 4th. They appear to have believed you were not represented or were not aware of the scheduled proceedings." I said, "They sent the notice to my old address." William was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Yes, they did." I said, "I want to be in that room, William." He said, "I know. I'll make the call." On March 4th, 2026, I walked into the offices of Aldridge and Fenn on the 4th floor of a building on Peachtree Street in Atlanta. I was wearing a dark blue blazer and flat shoes, and I was carrying a leather portfolio that contained Dr. Elms's 14-page forensic report, the subpoenaed mailing records, the Meridian Life Call logs from 2019 and 2021, and a copy of Marcus's original policy from 2013 with his signature in the bottom right corner. The signature with the hook on the M. The mediation room had a long table and 6 chairs and a window that looked out over Peachtree Street. A mediator named James Burrell sat at the head of the table. William sat on my left. 2 attorneys from Meridian Life sat across from us. My father arrived 4 minutes late. He was 67 years old. He was wearing the blue blazer he wore to church in Savannah. He was with his attorney, a man named Craig Aldridge, who was younger than I expected and had the manner of someone who had not yet been surprised in a mediation room. My father saw me when he came through the door. He stopped walking for half a second. Then he kept walking. He sat down. He did not look at me again after that initial half second. He looked at the table. He looked at Craig Aldridge. He looked at the window. He did not look at me. James Burrell opened the mediation with the standard language. He explained the process. He explained confidentiality. He explained that the goal was resolution. Craig Aldridge spoke first for the respondent. He presented the change of beneficiary form as valid. He presented my father as the intended beneficiary under an agreement made with Marcus prior to his death. He used the phrase family understanding twice. He presented no documentation of any such understanding. William waited until Craig Aldridge finished. Then he opened his portfolio. He placed Dr. Elms's report on the table. He placed the subpoenaed mailing records. He placed the Meridian Life Call logs. He placed a side-by-side comparison of Marcus's verified signatures and the questioned signature on the form, prepared by Dr. Elms and printed on 11 by 17 paper, so the details were visible from across the table. He said, "The beneficiary change form submitted to Meridian Life on August 19, 2021 bears a signature that a board-certified forensic document examiner has concluded, with a high degree of professional certainty, is not genuine." The form was postmarked from Savannah, Georgia, where Mr. Whitfield resides. Mr. Whitfield contacted Meridian Life in January of 2021 to inquire specifically about the beneficiary change process and timeline. Marcus Calloway died 26 days after this form was received. We are prepared to pursue this matter in full, including referral to the Georgia Insurance Commissioner and the Chatham County District Attorney's Office for investigation of insurance fraud and forgery. The room was very quiet. Craig Aldridge looked at the documents on the table. He looked at his client. My father was looking at the table. He had not looked up since William began speaking. James Burrell said, "Mr. Aldridge, would your client like a recess?" Craig Aldridge said, "Yes, please." The recess was 22 minutes. William and I sat in a small waiting area down the hall. He brought me a cup of water from the cooler near the elevator. We did not speak very much. At one point, I looked out the window at Peachtree Street and thought about Marcus calculating his exit route at the rooftop party in 2009, and I thought that if he were here, he would already know the fastest way out of this building, and he would have already told me, and I would have already forgotten it, and he would have reminded me without making me feel bad for forgetting. When we went back in, Craig Aldridge said that his client wished to withdraw the competing beneficiary claim. Meridian Life's attorneys confirmed that upon withdrawal of the competing claim, disbursement of the policy benefit to the named primary beneficiary would proceed within 30 days. James Burrell noted the agreement for the record. My father signed the withdrawal form. He signed it with a pen Craig Aldridge handed him. He did not look at me when he signed it. He did not look at me when he stood up. He did not look at me when he put on his jacket. He looked at me once, at the door, for half a second. Just long enough for me to see that he knew exactly what he had done. Not remorse, not apology. Just the acknowledgement of a man who had been caught and who was now leaving the room as quickly as possible. Craig Aldridge held the door for him, then they were gone. The disbursement from Meridian Life arrived on April 7, 2026, $800,000, the full benefit, 4 years and 7 months after Marcus died. I sat at the kitchen table when the bank confirmation came through on my phone, the same kitchen table where I had opened the claim packet in 2021, the same kitchen table where Eleanor and I had filled out the form together, the same kitchen table where I had laid Dr. Elms's report next to Marcus's signatures and found the missing hook on the M. I did not cry. I had done my crying in other rooms, on other mornings, in the years between Marcus's death and this one. I made coffee. I sat down. I opened my phone and I called Eleanor in Decatur. She picked up on the second ring. I told her it was done. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Baby, Marcus knew you'd fight for it." I said, "He would have fixed it faster." She laughed. It was the laugh I had heard at our wedding in Piedmont Park, and at every Thanksgiving after, and at the hospital on the night he died when she had laughed at something the night nurse had said because Eleanor was the kind of woman who found the one warm thing in any cold room. "He would have," she said, "but you fought longer. That matters too." I have not spoken to my father since the mediation room. He has not called. He has not written. I do not know what Craig Aldridge told him on the way out of the building. I do not know what he told my aunts in Savannah, what version of the story he built for the people who knew him as the man who made jokes at weddings and ran alongside his daughter's bicycle until he let go. I know what he did. I know the date he called Meridian Life. I know the postmark on the envelope. I know what Dr. Elms found in the stroke direction and the ink pressure and the letter form that was almost right, but not quite. I know that Marcus trusted him, and I know what that trust cost. The cedar tree in the backyard is taller now than it was the summer Marcus planted it. It will outlast both of us, the way he intended. I sit near it sometimes in the early morning before the Atlanta heat sets in, with coffee, with the cats, with the particular quiet of a house that has been a grief house for 4 years and is slowly becoming something else. Marcus wanted me to have time to think, time to not make decisions from desperation. He was right. The time mattered. The thinking mattered. It just took a forwarded envelope and a missing hook on the letter M to finish what he started.